Well, I thought for the second half of the morning we'd go straight on to see how we teach language, because and I could use the first colour box as the example. We just have a certain difficulty in learning language, because when we speak in full sentences and so on. So we must, when we give the lesson on the naming, again, we must simplify language and use as few words as possible. That applies to all lessons. But it is a great help to the child, because it is hard for him when he hears a word read in relationship with many things. It's hard for him to distinguish it as a colour, to get the sort of abstract conception. So it's a help to have the word in connection with the colour in a very exact form. And it's a help for him to get many words in this way. And we must understand the small child's real desire to amass words. It's even before they're talking, so about just beginning to toddle around, they will look at things and grunt or make some noise or point, and they're wanting the word, you see. And we must understand that then it's not, we just tell them the noun, see, singly and by itself. They point at an animal in the field, and grunt, and you would have to say cow. Cow, that's a cow. You see, so he does, and he needs a repetition. A child will stare at you, even at 11 or 12 months, and he'll be very happy as long as you repeat the one word for him. See, he'll say, looking or pointing at something. And you have to say the word over and over again, perhaps 20, 30 times. And he stares at you, he gives you his full attention, and then suddenly he's had enough. And you know when he's had enough. But that is the sort of help we must be aware of his need, and we must give this help. Now, when we set out, when he has had the experience, and the experience must come first, and he must show that he understands and can do an exercise easily before we begin on teaching any names. But supposing he is able to pair these three primary colours, he's done it many times, no mistakes, then we would take one of each to his table, the others in the box. And we have a special lesson when we're going to teach words. We call it the 3-period lesson. So, because there are 3 definite stages in the lesson. Now, in the first stage, we show the child one of the colours, and we name it. Now, the teacher has the colours a little to the left or the right, depending on which the side of the child she's sitting. She has them a little away from the child, not extravagantly so, not hiding them in any way. It just has them there, but she wants him only to see one at a time. So she puts one within his range of sight, and she repeats the name. This is yellow, yellow, yellow. She stresses the word as she pronounces it very clearly, especially a word like yellow, which they sometimes do mispronounce. That one is yellow. And she says the word a number of times, both she and the child looking at it, and he couldn't possibly do anything but apply the word to this particular colour, because that's the only one in front of him, yellow. When she has said the word yellow often enough for the child she's teaching, then she goes to the next colour. But notice she has not asked the child to say the word. You see, to say the word yourself is another step, more difficult. The teacher repeats the word, yellow. That one's yellow, yellow. Naturally, many children imitate you, and if the child was to begin saying yellow as well, then you wouldn't stop him, but you don't ask him to. That's one is yellow. Now exchange the yellow for one of the others. Blue, blue. That one's blue. That's blue. Again, repeat it as many times as you think is necessary for the child you're teaching. That's blue. Saying it very clearly, very distinctly. I change that for another. Red, red, red. That one's red. That one's red. That's red. Now it's not enough to do it once. You see, he needs that 2 or 3 times. Yellow. Yes, yellow, yellow. Red. That's red. Red. And so you would repeat that in that way. Now that's the first stage of the lesson, when you put just one at a time in front of the child and give the name. The second stage, you would put them all in front of him. And at this second stage, you want to see if the child has made the connection between the word and the colour, if he has associated the word with the right colour. So you put them all in front of him, and you say, you can say the same thing in many forms. You don't have to learn a form of words so that you really, it sounds dreadful if you always use exactly the same words. Like you say, could you show me yellow? Yes, that's yellow. Show me red? Yes. Show me blue? Yes. Or I could say, give me the yellow one, give me the blue one. Or I could say, which is blue, which is a red. Many ways in which you can say it. But what you're doing is getting the child to show that he has associated the right name with the right colour. All right. Give me the yellow. That's right, that's yellow. Give me red. Yes, red. Give me blue. Yes, that's blue. Now, show me red and blue and yellow. Occasionally you can play a little game of mixing up. Now do you know yellow and red and blue? Now when you have practiced that stage often enough, you take the 3 colours to the side again. And you move into the 3rd stage. And at the 3rd stage, you see if the child knows the name and if he can also pronounce it correctly. So you put one of the colours in front of him. You tell me, which is that? He has to say blue. And this one, which is it? And he has to say yellow. This one, red. And if you find that he is not pronouncing the word correctly, of course red and yellow, blue are words that they sometimes mispronounce, then you give him some help with the pronunciation, getting him to listen to you saying it very clearly, say it after you. because any speech defects are easily remedied in these years, but the longer the child continues with a speech defect, the harder it is to cure it. So you give him the correct pronunciation in the beginning and help him to pronounce correctly. Well, now you're going to repeat that a few times, you see. And if each time you show him a color, he gives you the right name, then that's fine. You hope he'll remember them the next day when you go over them again. Now this lesson does give the child all the repetition that he needs. You see, first with the teacher giving the name, secondly with the teacher using the name, but letting him show that he has applied the right name to the right color, and thirdly getting him to do the most difficult thing, and that is say the name himself. Now when you go to giving the second stage of the lesson, if you said, show me red, and he pointed the wrong color, or show me blue, and he pointed the wrong color, you would immediately show him which was the right one. You say, show me yellow, and he gave you red, you would say, oh, that one's red, this one's yellow, show me blue. But if he made several mistakes, so you wouldn't take any notice just for one error, then you would put them to one side again. It would mean you hadn't repeated the first stage sufficiently often. So you put them to one side and you will repeat the first stage again. See, so that he heard the word in connection with the color more often. And then if at the third stage, when you say, which color is this, he makes many mistakes, you wouldn't just for one mistake, then you would go right back to the second stage, you see, so that you gave him more practice in hearing the name associated with the color. Of course, these words, red, yellow, blue, are words that he must have heard many times in the environment. It would be a very impoverished environment if he hadn't. So it's just making sure he associates those names with the correct color. You can give the names of this box as soon as he's pairing them easily. Give it before he's completed the second box, of course. And then as he goes on to pairing with the second box, when he can pair without difficulty, then you can teach the names of those colors. So you repeat him the names as he is ready for them. But first he has to show that he identifies the colors by pairing them. You do let him, he must have the experience first, you see. Have the experience first, you know the colors, then it's easy to learn the names. Now, is there anything you wanted to ask about that technique? It's a technique we only use when we're teaching language. And we use it whenever we're teaching new words. We do make a point of introducing words as fast as we can to the children. Up to 2.5, they're perfecting the structure of language, the grammar, the syntax, and amassing a certain number of words. And now syntax should be complete, grammar should be correct. And from then on, they simply amass words at a fantastic rate. Never again can the human amass words at that rate. And so this is a time when we really have to feed them words. So when we talk to children, we must use a very, very rich vocabulary. We must never say, I have to simplify for the children, that I have to use a very simple speech for the children. When you're giving a lesson, then you either simplify using as few words as possible, or no words at all, depending on the lesson. But otherwise, in conversation with the child, in talking to him in the playground, or when he's putting his hat and coat on, or all these other times of the day, or when you're playing games with them, or telling them a story of any sort, then you must consciously use different words and add many more adjectives, more adverbs. In fact, every day you ought to add a dozen or so words to that vocabulary. So they will pick them up through hearing you use them. So don't be afraid of using long words, so on, because the child will just absorb whatever there is in his environment. But we do have to become very aware of this facility in taking language that the young child has, his power to assimilate language. And we must make use of these first 5 years. Well, with any of the materials that we give the children, we can give them words so that they are able to absorb them in a more exact way. With the graded colour box, they did know the words light and dark. But we could take 3 from one end of the range, no matter which range. If I took these 3, you see, and I would show the child this one and say, this one is pale, this one is paler, and this one is the palest. Pale, paler, palest. So he understood the superlatives, comparative and the superlative of adjectives. If I took the 3 from the other end, and I would say this one is dark, this one is darker, and this one is the darkest. Dark, darker, darkest. And of course go through that 3-period lesson. But he gets the names with such clarity, you see, that he does understand. Now, we've had the cylinders, pink tile, the broad stair, the long rods. So let's look at those and see what we could teach. We took this block and took out the 2 extremes. You could teach this one is thick, this one is thin. Thick and thin. They're the same height. There's the only difference in quality between these 2 is that this one is thick and this one is thin. So when you say this is thick and this is thin, they must know what you're talking about. This block, see, this one is tall, this one is short. Tall, short. And the only difference in quality between those 2 is that one is tall and one is short. They're the same color, they're the same thickness. So the quality that you're talking about is obvious. You don't have to explain anything. We took those 3 And then this one is thick, this one is thicker, this one is the thickest. And if we took those three, this one is thin, this one is thinner, and this one is the thinnest. What am I going to teach with these three? Yes, and with the opposite three? Yes. They love these superlatives, you know, and you don't have to teach every child all of them because the children go around, you know, teaching each other. Now with this block again, you can take out the two end ones and you can put your finger in the hole. This one is shallow and this one is deep. Okay, you're putting your finger from the top downwards, so this is shallow, this hole is deep. And three of their favourite words is shallow, shallower, shallowest. For some reason, you know, the word's a bit strange, they adore it. Deep, deeper, deepest. But it's so clear. It's not like Sesame Street when they are rushing up and down and introducing a dozen other concepts at the same time. The two extremes of the pink tower, we will teach large and small. And with the two extremes of the broad stair, we will teach thick and thin, wouldn't we? And with the long rods, long and short. And then if you took three from any end of the scale with any of those, here are the three smallest pink tar, and you say small, smaller, smallest. And the child can look at them, see the differences, and understand what the word means. So with all the sensorial material, you'll find that we feed names. But always the experience first, and he must be doing the exercise easily. He must be really familiar with the material, and then it's easy for him to take the names. But if you started with the names, it would be very difficult. And we make use of this period for teaching the names that he is going to need in most other special subjects later on. You see, whenever you start a new subject, you have to start with a new vocabulary. So I shall be bringing in material to show you how we can give much of the vocabulary in a very simple form, with very simple diagrams or very simple models. Dr. Montessori calls them materialized abstractions. And you will see how we do clarify. But we do try and give him all these words, because when you started a new subject like biology or geometry, one of the troubles was that you had suddenly to learn this very difficult vocabulary at an age when you did not learn words so easily. Now when they are small, they learn these words very easily. And to a child, no word is more difficult than another word. We have inhibitions because we had to learn certain names at a time. If we didn't learn words easily, we still think they're difficult. You see. But to a child, it's no more difficult to say a right-angled isosceles triangle than it is to say staircase or elevator. You see, the difficulty is in the mind of the adult. You see, so we mustn't have a barrier ourselves to words.
If you used, for instance, like you said, the pink tower to teach large and small, would it be a mistake then to use again the pink tower to teach heavy and light?
Yes, that's not a concept we're giving with the pink tower. Heavy and light will be, that concept of weight will be given with another piece of material. You see, we have a separate piece of material for each concept that we give. Of course, I mean, weight does come into this, but it's really his size that he's so aware of in building it into a tower. I think but we mustn't have any barrier in our own minds. We mustn't think the child is too young for words, or that he won't be able to understand us. You see, when we give us a story using a very rich language, it doesn't really matter if he's fully comprehending or not. Or when we're just chatting to him in the playground, you see, bombarding him with words, it doesn't matter that he comprehends every word. If we started with the baby and said, I'm no good talking to this baby, it doesn't understand anything, you see, then it would never learn to speak at all. Our children who haven't. So, the more words we use, the more he seems to assimilate them just from hearing them in a certain context.
Would it be wrong then, for instance, if you were reading a story and ran across a word you knew they didn't comprehend?
Just go on. Don't stop and explain. The explanation is more difficult. You grasp the word from the context. It could only make a certain sense in that context. And most stories they like to hear many times. But the explanations, you can't, really, the explanations are very difficult. Just gradually absorbing the word is much easier for them.